Awesome. Welcome, everyone.
Hello.
We're just going to do the usual sharing it out, making sure that this is public so everyone can see. If you are watching us on the replay, you can let us know that you are watching with just a little hashtag replay. We're going to have a chat about conscious evolution, which is doing it intentionally instead of just being dragged along by life, which is what is going to happen if we don't put any attention and intention and focus into our evolution. So I'm here live, like in person in the flesh with Nicole, which is always delightful. We're working on a amazing program for people who are wanting to consciously create life and cultivate a business as a spiritual entrepreneur, helping other people consciously create their lives and then rippling that out, because conscious evolution and creation is super, super important to us. We're super passionate about it. So Nicole's just getting that all shared out everywhere. And yeah, I'm so glad that we can also have a break from work to chat about what is going on with conscious evolution right now in our fields, give a little energy update about that, and also talk a little bit about the Evolve Summit for alchemical conscious creation for soulpreneurs that's happening this week, both on Facebook, and I'll have the interviews on YouTube as well. So no matter where you're watching this, you'll be able to catch those. Yeah. So when I say conscious evolution, what does that mean to you?
Hmm. Intentionally creating and evolving. And I think anybody that is probably watching this is probably always working on themselves in some way or another. I think there's lots of people that just exist, and that's okay too. I used to be one of those people. I mean, I don't know if I always was. I just didn't know how to change myself, perhaps, or how to work with the energies and switch things up. Yeah.
There is nothing wrong with existing, with just existing. The journey gets to be exactly what you make of it. But the thing is, not consciously choosing something is just living by default. And that means that you're actually not bringing your essence, your consciousness, your soul creation forces and powers into your life at all. And basically, you're running out old programs, belief systems, structures that are probably not actually fully yours. They might be from society, from your parents, from ancestral lineages, like things from your DNA, and you're going to be running those things without really ever questioning why or if that's actually how you want to live and do life. So I know I have done that in the past too, just kind of like floating along and just doing what was right in front of me. But sometimes there's a difference between doing what's right in front of you and not really being conscious of what it is you're doing. And you kind of were alluding to the fact that you might have been in that place of not
Mm-hmm.
not being aware.
Yeah, like I think I wanted to do something different, and but I didn't know what to do or how to do. And I knew that I wasn't. I remember being like, I don't know, in my early 20s and just drinking all the time on weekends and waking up and feel crappy and like, oh my God, I want to go do something else and craft. And I really wanted to start crafting things. I guess I wasn't expressing my creative
Mm.
essence that so needs to be expressed. And that's such a huge part of me. And I didn't have an outlet for that. And but yet I would still just keep doing the same things because that's what my friends did, and I had fun doing it, but I also didn't like how I felt afterwards. And like if I could
Mm.
get drunk and then feel fine the next day, maybe it would have been okay. But yeah, and like because I hadn't done it before and I didn't, make those real conscious choices on my own, I didn't know how to do it. And then it was in being this kind of weird place, like, well, how do I even start this? And don't know what that was.
I'm not too sure. I'm curious. feel like it could be a sign. Let's look.
Yeah, I'm also somewhat curious about what that was. That was like a mic drop moment or something.
Yeah, we're talking about conscious creation, and this is what fell off the back of my bookcase. So this is an centaur with this bow and arrow that's actually a symbol for Sagittarius, and that is also covered in cat hair because it's a little old, and it's just from a good friend of mine who's a beautiful artist. But I think one of the reasons I'm obsessed with conscious creation and moving forward in evolution is because I have a lot of Sagittarius in my chart. So it's actually something that's easier for me. It's like part of my design to want to like be moving forward and pushing things towards the next level. That's just it's what fire signs tend to do. We've got a lot of like action orientation in our design. And I actually have a very almost equal amount of earth in my chart as well, which holds space really nicely for it. So it's not all just like action, action, going crazy, traveling the world and never, putting down any roots. But what does that feel like it was telling us when it fell down?
Yeah, I get that.
Kayla's a Sag too. Yeah,
Fire going. I have a lot of air and water in my chart, which sometimes makes it difficult for me to want to, or not to want to, but to actually like, I don't always have that. I don't have that same fire that you do.
Literally in our energy fields. Yeah, and you know what? This is something that I don't think we were planning on talking about it. So this must be why that picture fell down and was like, hey, put this in there, add this now. Everybody's design is different, and we are all composed of such multidimensionality from our past lives, from our ancestral stuff, our DNA, the epigenetics, from our childhood experiences, from society. It all shapes us. But part of what also shapes us is our natal chart. And we are born in accordance with our soul's path and soul's journey. So it's all perfect and divine. But we can look at our astrology, our natal chart, for example, and see what parts of us exist and how they work with each other. Sometimes they can be harmonious, and sometimes they can really fight and they can make it difficult to get things done. So I love this because part of the program that we're going to be offering with the Conscious Creation Life Coaching Academy is going to be working with the elemental forces of creation, earth, air, fire, water, and spirit, as an archetypal structure for creation, for evolution, bringing all of those parts in harmony. So we'll be working with them inside astrology charts, but also just as this elemental pattern for how we can make sure that we're in wholeness and each part of us is going to be taken care of. Because if any one part is not in balance, then the whole thing collapses. So part of our conscious evolution is getting all of the elements in balance within us. Again, you can be talking about getting your natal chart. If, say, for example, I've got lots of fire and earth, the fire holds the transformation stuff and the earth roots it to the ground. But if people have a lot of water and fire, then there's that energy of push and pull and different aspects wanting to get different things done at different times and different energy levels, and it can just kind of like fizzle out and nothing can happen. Same thing if you have just too much earth in your chart, it can be really hard to get things done. And we want to be able to be cognizant and aware of our own personal nature so that we can work with it instead of against it. But also working with earth, air, fire, water, and spirit as this archetypal realm to understand the wholeness of all of creation. So earth is the physical realm, air is the mental realm, water is the emotional realm, spirit is the ineffable essence of all that is, and then we've got fire, the action realm. And we need to have all of these in balance to create a unified field of creation that is so much more than any one of them individually, but also to get stuff done, to move things forward. If you are imbalanced in any one of those areas, it's not gonna work. So I have a few people right now in my life that are feeling like they're being dragged along by the current of life instead of consciously co-creating. It feels like life is happening to them. So I would speak to them right now, because I didn't say it earlier, this is only coming through because that picture fell off the wall to remind me, what area in your life is needing more attention, right? Is it the physical body, that meat suit that needs such specific care and maintenance? Do you need more sleep? Do you need more outside time? Or is it the emotional realm? Do you need to have a good cry or connect with friends, right? Is it the mental realm? Maybe some belief systems need to change and shift in order to move forward. Is it the fire realm burning out of balance? And maybe there's been too much action and we need the equal amount of rest, or vice versa, right? There's so many little aspects that need to be in balance for life to flow. Yeah. So I guess this is coming forward to speak directly to those people that are feeling out of balance right now and feeling like life is happening to them. What area in your life is needing extra care to bring yourself back into that harmonious creation container?
I wish I knew this like 10 years ago. There's so many times and I'd be like, oh, today I did this thing for self-care. And I'm like, this is the answer. This is what I need all the time. And then I would keep trying to do that thing all the time. And I'm like, well, it's not working anymore. But I didn't
Mm.
understand there was like all of those other little things. Well, the next day, the same thing isn't going to be in balance. Another thing is good. It needs to be adjusted. So it's like doing these little micro adjustments all the time to try and, yeah, just maintain that, balance and where you're not feeling like life's pulling you along and you get to, yeah, be the creator.
Yeah, that's such a good point, because also when we're younger, I was so guilty of this too. It's almost like, okay, something works, so I have a template for it. So I'm going to just try that again and again. And then we get confused as to why it's not working. It's because life and our bodies do not have this static template, and we do need new things in every moment. And that's why the understanding of the broad picture can be really helpful, knowing who you are, what you're made up of, but also then how all of the other elements work in harmony with each other on Earth. Because I think that Earth is kind of unique in throughout the multiverse in how creation happens here, very specifically in this organic form. And we came here to learn how to create in harmony with the Earth instead of how we have been doing it, which is exerting our will upon the Earth without having any conscious awareness of what would be harmonious, right? It's like a lot of people just force it. We force our will and we're not looking at what would be holistically appropriate. You can take a look, for example, at monoculture farming, right? Where we're like, okay, this doesn't happen anywhere on the planet, but we are going to subjugate the earth to our will and plant only corn for miles and miles and miles. And then, of course, things go wrong, right? The ground is losing its nutrition. Different pests are attacking the crops because there's no biodiversity and it's not a natural space anymore. And so then we have to exert more of our will and use more energy to try to create. And that doesn't actually sustain anything. We get burnt out, we lose that nutrition that's available to us. So if you look at a system instead like biodynamic farming or any of the other ones that are really bringing everything forward and looking at all of the pieces and all of the elements in a really intricate and complex interconnected system, then we have the better results. And it's actually much less effort once you get in harmony with the cycles of nature, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because like Earth existed millions of years doing that before we came along and, done with what we've done for the past few hundred years and look where we're at.
Yeah. So we are more complex than agricultural crops and lands. And our biodiversity and our internal landscape is just as is magical for creation, right? Just like the land can grow things, so too can we with our ideas, with our focus and intention. But all of those elements need to be in balance or in harmony in order to be able to create, in order to be able to do the things that we want to do, that we came here to do, right? Yeah. So there is this difference between consciously creating and trying to subjugate your will onto life. What's the difference to you?
Yeah, so I can want something, but that doesn't mean that that's the highest and best good, because something even better can be coming along. And if I close my eyes and say I just want this fixed outcome, then I could be missing something else, and I'm holding on to it so tight. So it's like, that's not how you manifest and attract things. We have to let go and surrender and trust. And if you look to nature, you see that all the time. We don't need to um, hold on to things so tightly. Like, I never imagined that I would be working with you on this project. And here we are, and it's amazing. I knew that I wanted a job that was flexible, because I needed to, yeah, I needed something that was flexible, that would be in alignment with doing what I love. And then all of a sudden, I just mentioned that I want to be your Violet, which, if you don't know who Caitlin, Diana, and Violet are, they're from another membership. They're from Canada, and Violet's like Caitlin's right hand girl. So I'm like, I want to be your Violet. And then that planted some seeds, and here we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, co-creation with this openness to what is going to come through, and trusting that the creativity of the universe is going to lead us where we need to be, instead of trying to be like, okay, I want this, it needs to happen exactly this way, and it's going to follow these steps, and you're trying to force it to be something that is not ever going to be as grand or amazing as what'll happen when we direct our will and intention. We're like, I would like it to feel like this. This is what I want in my life. Universe, bring it to me, and bring it to me in a way that is more spectacular than I can even imagine. Because we for about 5 years since we did our last retreat, we're like, we're going to co-create. We're going to co-create retreats together. And we co-created the playground together. And we didn't know this opportunity was going to come up. And so it's been just this openness and surrender and flow to trusting what is, as opposed to trying to force it into being something that it's not, right? There is this surrender and this acceptance to the co-creation with life. It's like dancing with it, right? Dancing with a partner. You don't necessarily want to be like forcing your partner to move around, right?
Mhm.
You want to be leading them, dancing with them, guiding with them, right? Guiding them to be in harmony with you, as opposed to, again, subjugated by your will, or the opposite of completely just being like, I don't know, checked out and not in the conscious process at all.
Mm-hmm. I've talked before about how I had the year where I always have a word for a year, and I have interesting learnings from them. And the year that I was open to possibility, I said yes to everything, not to the things necessarily that would fulfill me, because I didn't know at the time. So it was a great learning experience to learn what I actually liked and to learn boundaries and all that stuff. But I was actually just reflecting on how I even chose that word. And I think I did an online quiz, and I'm like, oh, this is my word for the year. And I was like, wow, that was not very conscious. Some random person whose job it was to come up with like different themes. I think it was on the Gaia website from years ago. Chose open to possibility. And I'm like, that's going to be my word for the year. And wow, I would not do that so unconsciously. And I didn't know any better at the time. Um, and yeah, it's just so interesting. So that was me being totally like going with the flow and not consciously directing at what I want. But it's a practice, and we're not taught this. I mean, maybe our girls will be.
Yes, we are teaching our next generation how to do this manifestation magical stuff, but I definitely wasn't taught it either. And going with the flow is not a bad thing. But the question is the flow taking you where you want to go, right? Because there's a huge infinite ocean, and you can at least set your sail in the direction that you want to go, right? And it's even more helpful when you set your sail by the North Star of your cosmic trajectory, your soul essence, your highest self, right? And that which you want to create, as opposed to just winding up there because who knows. Although if you're at the stage of life where you're just wanting to flow and see what is out there, that's perfect too. Exploring And all of that doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. It's not. It can be a wonderful thing. But then you're consciously exploring and saying, like, I am open, universe, lead me to magic, instead of just going like, meh, whatever is fine, I guess. Like there's a different energy between that.
I really love to connect with how I want to feel first. And I look for those ways or look for those feelings to show up in my life. I thank the universe for all the ways that I got to feel thriving, flow, connection, and bliss in that day. And then I'm shown even more of them. And eventually, it took time. So at first, I had to figure out what those feelings, like my core desired feelings, Danielle Laporte's work, it took me time to figure out what those were. And I started to realize I actually had them in my life more than I thought. And then that created more. And little by little, like everything in my life is built around those feelings. And but it doesn't happen overnight. So if you're at a place where you're like, I don't know what I want and I'm not sure even how to get there, it is kind of a lot of trial and error. But if you're in our community, you can do that in a safe way. And yeah.
Yeah, it's trial and error, absolutely, because I think that we don't know what we want until we experience some things with contrast of like, oh, I don't actually want that. You have to date some people and you're like, deal breaker. Okay, I actually don't enjoy this particular experience. So what is it pointing you towards, right? We can actually look at all of the old ick that was stuff that we didn't actually really enjoy with some love and gratitude for showing us with clarity what it is we do want. And if you're stuck and you're like, I don't know what I want, maybe just look at where you're at right now. And if there's a part that doesn't feel good, what would you like instead? That is super, super helpful. And I love what you're saying about the core desired feelings, because that's what gives you the access to the universal creativity. When you're going, I want to feel this way, instead of going like, I want to experience this exactly, like we all know the checklist of partner to be married with the picket fence and the 2.5 children and the little dog and the career and stuff like that, where we're like, I want this exactly, but there's no focus on how you want it to feel. If you instead start with the feeling of, I want to feel like, for me, it's free to create and connect in ways that feel just as magical as when I'm at some place like a transformational music festival or a hula hooping festival. I really noticed that I wanted to feel those feelings when I would go away from those places and go, man, I don't feel that anymore and I miss it. And then I was like, okay, well, I guess this is so important to me. That's what I'm going to create in my life. And now I get to do that every day in my job. And I have for a long time in many different creative ways. But I didn't direct I want to feel it in this way. I didn't know when I was feeling that way I wanted to become an artist in residence teaching like dance and hula hooping in elementary schools. That was what the universe answered my I want to feel this way prayer with. Right, and same thing with these projects that I'm co-creating with the universe. I waited until there were some downloads, some co-creations, some connections that said, here, this is the path forward, and it's going to bring you to where you want to be in a way that's so much easier than trying to like force it. Right, I think it's that force versus flow energy as well.
Yeah, forcing just is not useful. It's what do I want to say about that? I feel like so my word for this year is expansion. And I have experienced already what it's like to try to force expansion, which is like inflation and trying to create something out of what I'm not, I guess. Trying to be bigger than I am. I'm like, oh, people aren't going to want what I already know how to do. So I have to like make it even bigger and better. And then I'm like, oh, wait, I tried to do that. And I don't maybe quite have the skill set exactly yet for that because I was trying to force something rather than, um, yeah, than letting it grow and expand organically. And I've kind of come back down. I'm like, oh, what people actually want is my gifts. Like I don't need to be something else. I need to be myself. And it comes along with that. Um, yeah, I just thought that was a really great example of what happens when you try to force versus expand. organically and go sustainably.
Hmm. Yep. Burnout, imposter syndrome, like those things are huge when you are forcing it. And as a general rule, there's probably exceptions. When I see people really like trying to exert their will and create something in a way that doesn't have the flow, that doesn't have that desire for a particular feeling about it, and they're very strategic about creating all of the little details without allowing the universal forces of creation and creativity to like insert the magic, the people wind up disappointed and oftentimes stagnant, burnt out, or they get exactly what they want and then they're feeling empty inside and they're like, I am not actually happy with what I have created. And there's a big hole, and now I'm going to fill it with something else. And they'll go on a crisis or fall into addiction. Like this is a pattern that happens.
Mhm.
And I'm glad you were able to like notice this on a really small scale quite quickly, right? So it didn't grow into something quite a bit bigger. um, yeah, it's a co-creative process, right? You direct some of the energy, but you also get to be in the surrendered place of allowing the feelings to direct where you're going. But the universe is like, okay, you want to feel this way? I got you. Let us head over here and then maybe over here. And it's going to continue to evolve and grow, right? And it's not to say that you give up on expanding and becoming more and evolving, right?
No,
Like you continue that process, but there's this half of it is I can't wait to grow and expand and do all the things, and the other half is I am perfectly content with exactly where I am right now, and I'm excited about the journey.
mm-hmm.
So
That's such a paradox. And I remember
mhm.
like having that realization sometime in the past year. I'm like, oh, I it is so challenging to, or sorry, I'm not going to say it's so challenging. It can be challenging when you're stuck in that like striving mentality, and you're, so it's really all about learning how to be happy with you are where you are, holding that space and knowing that you're going to continue to grow. And if you're watching this, I'm sure you're not going to stop working on yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like everything that is, I think, really truth, it contains the paradox, right? The creation, the co creation, the direction, and the surrender, the everything and nothing all at once. And that's the thing about like when you are tapping into those universal forces, that quantum field of creation, it's everything. So it's going to include paradoxical consciousness, which is hard to wrap your mind around. So we can start with just connecting back in with the feeling. What is it that we want to create, right? How do we want to feel in our life? And then looking at each of the elemental forces that would show us ourselves holistically and say, okay, where do I need to adjust, make those micro or macro adjustments? Sometimes big things have to happen, but you don't have to do it all at once, in the physical, in the mental, in the emotional, in the practical action, or in that spiritual creative realm. And once we have all of those in harmony, then we're already feeling those things that we want to feel. And then we're this vibrational match for them. And it just accelerates coming together of the future potential and where you are right now. And then you wind up already being that which you want to create. And it just speeds up the
Magic.
creation magic process.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Especially because that brings you in a place where there's no scarcity and there's no lack because you're tapping into the feeling of already being that, already having that, because you have everything, the potential for everything inside of you. So those are some shortcuts. I hope we were able to illustrate that conscious creation in a way that makes sense. My hands were trying to explain it to all of the different elements together.
Mm. I think that's so powerful. And the other piece that I think is also so important, so we're talking about like surrendering and letting go, and also remembering that sometimes things take time. I think that's one that's been challenging for me also. And I'm getting better
Mm.
at this year is I'm practicing learning to be okay with things taking time, and again not needing to force and needing to be like, hey, I'm not starting a business and then a few months later having like six figures right off the bat. Like that's kind of maybe unrealistic to expect that of myself. So once I gave that up, first of all, it was like so much release of tension and anxiety in my body. My goodness, I did not need to carry that. But it's hard because you have to really be able to trust and surrender and have faith that you will be taken care of. And that also took a lot of work to clear. But I did. And I'm feeling, I'm sure there's more, but I've really done that because every time I felt like I was like, how am I going to have money? I got a tax return or a job created itself or like whatever. Like I am always getting the support that I need. And the more we practice that and find gratitude for what we do have and really think about it, then, the more it shows up again. So it's just another practice.
Yes. And it is complicated. Nobody is great at this stuff all of the time. And the desiring to have it faster is definitely one that I think is so, so natural. And that's where the paradox of like, I already have it, it's all in perfect time, I have exactly what I need, and I'm still taking the steps to create what I want to do next is really key. And I love that. It's that surrender and flow energy that is allowing the divine, the creative essence expression of the universe to co create with you. And I think that's what really I'm hearing from you. It's like when you stopped putting it all on you, right? And you
Yeah.
allowed it to be a co creation with the universe and trust that you would be supported in that way.
Yeah, totally. Like when it's all on me, it feels heavy. It feels like a huge weight. And when I remember that I'm always supported, that Gaia is always here, that my high self is always here, Metatron, and they're always here supporting me, guiding me every step of the way, giving me the next breadcrumb so that I can just do the next thing that's in front of me and I don't have to have all the steps laid out in front of me. It's leading me towards the right thing, but we have to be able to listen and be open and, in that like co-creative dance that we talked about before, that relationship, so that we can just giving you some
Flow with
movements, flow
it.
with life. No words, just movements.
That's when I bust into light language or interpretive dance because sometimes it is beyond words. And that actually really supports our connection into our creative essence as well, is not trying to logic it all through, but sometimes we need to integrate through creativity. So that is a really fun way of doing the work, right? Of expressing yourself, of directing your evolution, is allowing yourself to have those creative moments, those moments of expression, right? Those moments of just pure essence without trying to get the mind so caught up with the definitions and the timelines, right? Moving out of the linear and into the expression of the all that is, because we're creator beings. Mm-hmm. So speaking of beings we created, my husband took our girls to the park. They are sisters who love each other, but they sometimes need us, and they're probably going to knock on the door pretty quickly. So we should wrap up. But first, I just want to share, could we share how they consciously communicated this morning in such a fabulous way?
Yeah, so my daughter Aurora, she's 4. She has been really concerned about coming here. And sometimes she gets nervous, but she's kind of mean. She's like, I don't want to go there. I hate them. I'm like, you don't hate them. And so I was actually like immediately applied a tool from the trauma class that I'm taking right now, which was awesome. So I'm like, what would you like it to feel like when we go there? And she's like, oh, well, I'd like it to feel like I forget her exact words, but like, I want you to be there with me, basically. I'm like, oh, so you just don't want me to go in the office and start working right away? She's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, well, we can totally do that. And I'm like, how about we let Charlie know? Because sometimes she's also introverted and she doesn't like to play all the time. And we know that. So I'm like, how about we leave a voice message for Charlie, for Aurora's daughter, and let her know that she might need some space. And so then she had my phone and left about like 10 messages.
Yeah, and it was so amazing because she communicated what she needed to Charlie before arriving, and Charlie was totally okay with that. Like, she's pretty intense, and she'll be like, play, play, play in your face. Oh my God, I'll play. And she understood where Aurora was coming from. She listened to the message. Then Nicole kind of explained it a little bit more deeply. And Charlie's a year and a bit older, so she was able to understand that explanation perfectly and just be like, okay. And she left a message back going, Aurora, I love you too, and I can't wait to play. But if you're feeling like you need space, you can have space. I'm just paraphrasing here. And she's like, and if you're feeling cranky, you can have a nap in my bed. Right?
Sweet.
And it was just so fabulous for them to be communicating in this really open way about, like, I have feelings, I have needs, and here they are. So nobody is surprised by what's going to transpire. And I think it went pretty well. Props to my husband who took them to the park, because they were kind of in our face when we were trying to work. And besides a headbutt to the nose that, busted a lip up and bled everywhere, it's been a pretty good day as far as I can tell.
As far as we know.
As far as we know, we're going to get the report. So, thank you everyone that was tuning in to listen to our ramblings about the universal co-creation and how we can move with that flowing energy, but also direct it. Oh my gosh, the kids were basically exemplifying that. They were like co-creating by directing, like, here's how I want to feel today, and then speaking it out into the universe, right, to Charlie's ears, and then Charlie's holding space for it. Like, this is manifestation and co-creation magic that we are teaching these tiny humans right now. Like, yay.
And they're gonna be like so resourced and skilled as they grow, when they grow. And I can't imagine what the world, I want to imagine what the world is gonna be like with all of that.
Yeah, exactly. So if they can apply these skills, we all can, right? Like, and they don't have as much baggage, so they get to move through it much more quickly, and then they get to be our examples of what it looks like to create. Kids are actually fabulous at that, of like speaking what they want into existence and hoping that the universe will hear them and bring them what they want for Christmas or the ice cream after dinner that they are requesting. But they surrender it and they let it go pretty quickly as well, right? And then maybe something better comes instead. It is so much fun. Oh, Lena's saying we're glowing after talking about our kids and being so proud of them. Yes, I can't wait to hear. And they came in quietly because I spoke to my husband in a text message. Please make sure the kids don't come and bang on our door right away because we're going to be live. And so again, I spoke what I needed out, and then I let it go. I was like, unless there's an emergency, because then we'll of course be there for them, right? If they're coming back and there's more crying, more tears. So you can practice this with the little things as well as the big things. And it's a lot easier to practice with the little things, directing the energy and then letting it go, and noticing then afterwards and celebrating the support that you're receiving. Celebrating when you're noticing that you're consciously directing the energy and seeing what you get back. It's so fun. So I celebrate you in all of the growth that you've done over the last year with it. And we're going to dive more into Nicole's story actually in a couple days. I'm going to be sharing a summit inside the Radiant Evolution Collective group, as well as the videos will be posted on YouTube for evolution, for alchemical entrepreneurs, the ones who are conscious creators. And I'm going to be highlighting all of my students from a program that I just ran called Evolve, which was amazing. And they're going to tell their journey of entrepreneurship and stepping out of the norms and the expectations that they had maybe for their life, and then following their heart and soul desire to create something and bring their desire to help humanity forward into a business. So it's going to be super rich for people that love conscious creation and hearing inspiring tales. And you were talking when?
Tomorrow,
remind me?
at 2 after Maria.
Oh, beautiful. And so we're going to be connecting in for 2 hours each day. I'm going to have 2 students starting Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday daily at noon and 2 on Mountain Time. And that's going to be, again, replays available, but happening live in the Radiant Evolution Collective, or I'll upload them afterwards to YouTube as well. Go ahead, you're going to say something?
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to have a chat deeper into this, because so much to share, and also to hear everybody else, because everybody in the program was amazing. It was so much fun. And my favorite part was when we got to do the mastermind for each other and like channel messages for each other, and everybody is so fantastic and amazing.
That was really fun. The multidimensional mastermind, where people would bring forward either an energy that they needed some support with, or they were just like open to receiving messages, and people were channeling through things they needed to hear or things that they needed to look at, and it was all really super profound. So all of these women are super intuitive creators that are following their heart and soul to create a business that is lighting them up, supporting themselves abundantly, but and shifting paradigms by being able to be of service in a way that gives back to them, right? It's so cool. And all the niches all over the place. We have creative photographers, pleasure reclamation specialists, laughter therapists, like soul embodiment guides, priestesses of light. Like, it's going to be magical. So if you're on YouTube, be sure to like and then subscribe so you can catch all of those videos. And if you are inside the collective now, you don't have to go anywhere to find them. If you are not already a member of the Radiant Evolution Collective free Facebook group, you can find that by just going to joyevolution.group. Yeah, anything else about conscious creation and evolution before we sign off and see what those kiddos are up to?
Yeah. No, I think I feel pretty complete actually. So thank you for watching today, everybody. That was such a fun conversation, and I'm like excited to dive even more into this tomorrow.
Yes, we just scratched the surface. So every conversation I'll have for the next week is going to be talking about that conscious evolutionary process, and I'll be sharing how I guide students and my clients through the evolutionary alchemical process of transforming all the crap that's in the way so you can align with your highest self, and then trust yourself enough to live from that place and take the aligned action to magical creation. So it's going to be fun. Sending you all so much love. Talk to you soon.
Bye. Bye.